And they're going through a redistricting thing to basically get 5 more seats for the midterms because they're likely to lose the midterms and Trump is likely to lose power unless they can change the districts and rig the game.
Since they don't want to rule out dark money, I'm sure some dark money gonna pour in on the behalf of the American people. So what I am saying is every tactic, as well as making sure we're touching people.
So we got to give you more updates here today on the redistricting battle that we've been covering out of Texas and potentially even more Republican states here to come like Ohio, Florida, and Missouri. Because last we checked in on you, the Democrats were threatening to retaliate. They spent the past several days claiming that, hey, Republicans, if you redraw your congressional districts in your own favor, we could do the same. But as I told you at the time, this was largely an empty threat because none of what the Democrats want to do will hold up in court because of the fact that, as the New York Times just today even came out and admitted, their states are already heavily gerrymandered, right? Democrats have gerrymandered extensively. And as much as people say, oh, this is a move out of Texas that will give Republicans the advantage in the 2026 midterms, I see it as the opposite. I actually would argue, no, it is simply just leveling the playing field. And by the way, in the process, undoing a ridiculous left-wing gerrymander thanks to the abuses of the widely outdated Voting Rights Act and the minority majority districts that are mandated because of this. So we'll get into this full story here today out of the Democrats basically now admitting that, oh, we can't do anything because we already gerrymander. You have, for instance, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker having a meltdown over what Texas is doing, to which I say, have you seen your congressional map, buddy? You have Gavin Newsom coming out and claiming that Trump is trying to steal the 2026 election by playing fair. Yeah, go figure. We have Kathy Hochul claiming she's going to redistrict, despite the fact that, again, the New York Times now is here saying there's probably nothing she can do in that regard. And Jasmine Crockett, of course, being an idiot as usual. So we'll get into this full coverage here today on the redistricting battle. By the way, I encourage you to go watch our prior 2 videos on this matter so you can get kind of the full context of what's going on here, but we'll try to briefly re-explain it as we always do. So guys, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Subscribing here, guys, is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date on all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, so to briefly recap here, as I've been saying, basically what's going on right now in Texas is that after a Department of Justice notice basically saying, hey, we actually think your current congressional districts are unconstitutional because guess what? They look like this, right? This current district you can see, this is a current map. Now, this is not some Republicans are proposing. This is currently a congressional district in the state of Texas that is drawn not because Republicans wanted to, but because of, again, this majority-minority principle that, again, massively abused, misinterpreted in the courts, all this stuff, basically mandating that if your state has a significant share of Black or Latino voters, you have to draw out districts that represent them. And it's notable, this never goes in the other direction, right? If white people are the minority in an area, they never get their own district. But basically, this was carved out. This is the Texas 33rd Congressional District as a Democrat district, basically a free pickup for their party in an area that should otherwise be competitive to fulfill this very principle. And again, what is currently happening is that Texas Republicans are trying to undo this ridiculous map that is, again, a pro-Democrat gerrymander. And what are Democrats doing? Of course, crying, the Republicans are gerrymandering and rigging the 2026 election, when again, that is simply not the case. So with that said, I want to have you sit here and take a listen to the recent reaction by Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker to everything that is going on, because as we'll show you here in a second, it is highly, highly ironic. These people are virtue signaling, they're moralizing, they're posturing over something they are egregiously guilty of. Hence why, by the way, Republicans need to have moral courage in this regard. Do not back off. Do not get scared of what the media is saying. Push full steam ahead with the redistricting, because again, remember, this is who we're up against. Take a listen.
We have to see what they decide to do about Texas, but I think that the President of the United States encouraging Texas being willing to do this, should be an indicator to the rest of us that that if they're going to cheat that's not a proper way to act, that we're all going to have to band together to try to address that, at least to try to stop them by letting them know that if we were doing what they were doing, that in fact we would counterbalance, indeed take control of the Congress. I think we ought to play by the rules, everybody, and I think we ought to have an election in 2026. We'll see who comes out ahead in the Congress, but I think cheating the way the president wants to is improper. We all ought to stand up against it. People ought to be outraged.
Okay, so there is again the governor of Illinois accusing Republicans of cheating, and even further going so far as to make the slippery slope argument that, hey, if you do that, then we can do that as well, and then we would win elections because of it. Well, in that case, I think it would be a fair thing. I don't think it's disingenuous at all. It makes perfect sense, after all, to address his very argument, to pull up the current congressional map of Illinois. And by the way, ironically, this is the very state I used as the example in my past 2 videos on the subject before he even came out and said this. But since, buddy, you want to walk into this trap, you oversized ego, obviously, is what I'm talking about there, lunatic. Okay, let us pull up for you the receipts out of your own state. So what you see right here on the right hand is indeed the Illinois congressional map currently. And I want to ask you right now, what do you notice? So again, they say gerrymander. They say they draw these maps in their favor. Oh, look at these squiggly lines, right? Always trying to invoke these old arguments of like the 1960s South and civil rights and all that. Okay, what do you notice about this map, guys? Okay. Do you see that 13th Illinois congressional district? What the heck is this? What is it's snaking across, right? The other district right here. Let me see if I can try to zoom in here or something. Okay, so there you go. Here, see this image right here, right? You got the it goes from basically Champaign, which is the state capital, goes almost all the way to Indiana, all the way to East St. Louis, right through the middle of the 15th district here in green. That again, it makes absolutely no sense. What is this? What are we even looking at here, right? So obviously an egregious example there, but I don't think it ends there. Okay, look at like the 16th and 17th district. I mean, again, what is going on here? What are these lines? And by the way, it's not just a geographical thing. It's not just an eyesore to look at. It's worth noting that the Illinois congressional split right now, because of their heavily gerrymandered state. Again, I want to remind everyone, Democrats, they say, oh, if you gerrymander, we're going to do it too. They gerrymander already. The current split is 14 Democrats to 3 Republicans. 14-3 is the margin in Illinois. Okay. Want to ask a very simple question. Do you think that is proportional? Let's pull it up right now. 2024 Illinois presidential results. Do you think that is proportional to the number of Republicans versus Democrats in that state? Yeah, newsflash, guys, it is not. As you can see, the state of Illinois is a 54-43 state as of 2024. It got a little bit redder, but okay. Kamala Harris only won the state by 11 points, yet the split there is basically, you know, without even doing the exact math, like 70 to 80% almost of the seats in that state are controlled by the Democrats. You know what that's called? That's called gerrymandering. And out of state like California, similar thing. You had Donald Trump win 40% of the votes in that state. Only 15% of it go to Republicans. We can do this all day, okay? Because and by the way, Maryland, very similar thing. These are all heavily gerrymandered states. That's why I say, here's the thing. Do I necessarily blame Democrats for gerrymandering? No, because I'm not a child. I understand how politics works. I understand that generally speaking, it's just the truth. Okay, we can sit around and pretend it doesn't happen. But when you have political power, okay, in a state, that party is very likely to draw the maps in their own favor. Again, Democrats do this as well, so I don't even enjoy the childish arguments about it on one hand. But secondly, when you really want to break it down in this country, again, just look at Illinois as a prime example, but there are many others. The truth is, the Democrats have already extensively gerrymandered. That's why I say Texas is simply leveling the playing field in this regard. And frankly, I think there's also relevant discussion to be had that when you look at the 2022 House races, which was basically a red trickle, a red red mirage. Even 2024, when Donald Trump wins the national popular vote, sweeps all the swing states, but you're like, why was that House margin so close? It's actually, ironically here, largely a byproduct of Democrat gerrymandering. And so am I here to make the argument that, we need to cry about it, we need to go out and make these grandstanding arguments about it? No, actually, no. Because again, I don't blame the Democrats for doing stuff in their own favor. I mean, it's cynical, but yeah, that's how politics works. All I'm saying here is that if they're going to fight dirty, Republicans should at very least try to fight fair, not actively fight to their own disadvantage. Hence the situation you are seeing right now in Texas. So highly ironic there coming from JB Pritzker, but guys, we're not done, because take a listen now here to California Governor Gavin Newsom, who is currently accusing Trump of trying to steal the 2026 election by simply, trying to, if not even match, do something to slightly counter the ridiculous states you see like Illinois, assuming, Pritzker there basically guessing that no one's going to sit there and Google what his congressional map actually looks like. But here you go. Take a listen now to Democrat Governor Newsom.
When we do this today on this podcast, I just read this morning that Donald Trump was on the phone with the Texas legislature, and they're going through a redistricting thing to basically get 5 more seats for the midterms, because they're likely to lose the midterms, and Trump is likely to lose power unless they can change the districts and rig the game so he stays in power.
Do you think he's going to try and stay in power?
When people
beyond his term?
close to Donald Trump send the governor of California a hat that says Trump 2028, they're not fucking around.
Well, okay. I first of all asked the question, as he brought up there too, by the way, very likely the proposals out of Texas, Ohio, and even potentially other Republican states, most likely the math there in the end is that it's going to net Republicans plus 5 congressional seats. Now, that's not nothing, but it's also worth noting, if the Democrats are truly on the path to a historic 2018 or 2006 style blue wave, because after all, Donald Trump is just so massively unpopular, the Democrats are doing amazing, what exactly do you have to be afraid of? I thought you guys are supposed to be winning like 20 to 30 seats anyway, but apparently that is not the case. There's actually a specific reason why the Democrats are so freaked out about a potential 5 to 7 seat difference, and that is because they know they're not walking into a easy free blue wave. As a matter of fact, 2026, I should say, even on the House level, stands to be looking right now as extremely competitive. As a matter of fact, there are only 21 true toss-up seats, and Democrats would basically have to win the majority of these to even have a chance of having a House majority. And of course, as we covered before, you look at the fact that their betting odds are dropping. You look at the fact that, for instance, Qantas Insights is only estimating a 3 to 9 seat gain for Democrats in 2026. This is far from guaranteed. They could even pick up seats and potentially still not get the majority. Why? Because their party is weak, and that's hence why they're having such a freak out about this. Now, with all of that in mind, the other story we've been covering on this front, and I told you at the time was unserious, but here we go. They're now admitting it as well. We, of course, told you about the fact that California House Democrats, pushed here by Gavin Newsom, were looking to do what they were claiming would be the same exact thing here as Texas. They're pushing here to get 5 to 7 more seats in Congress through their own mid-decade redistricting that would be pushed by Gavin Newsom. And out of the state of New York Governor Kathy Hochul was proposing, basically pushing the same exact idea. Take a listen here for yourself.
What I'm going to say is all's fair in love and war, because we are following the rules. We do redistricting every 10 years. But if there's other states that are violating the rules and are going to try and give themselves an advantage, all I'll say is I'm going to look at it closely with Hakeem Jeffries. I'm not surprised that they're trying to break the rules to get an advantage, but that's undemocratic. And not only are we calling them out, we're also going to see what our options are. All right, thanks, everybody.
Well, what I told you the last time is that this is an unserious threat by Democrats for 2 reasons. Number one, congressional redistricting still has to hold up in court. It still has to be relatively reasonable. Hence why I made the case. The Texas one is pretty straightforward, because look at the congressional seat we showed you in the beginning. It's not going to be hard to argue that this ridiculous nonsense can be undone. But secondly, not only that, But as I said, Democrats already heavily gerrymander, hence making their little empty threat here utterly ridiculous. As a matter of fact, if you don't believe me, roll the tape. What did I tell you last time? And then in a second, we're going to show you how the Democrats are now admitting also they're defeated. Okay, let's do it. Well, again, I'm real scared considering you guys already do this. But on that front, it's also worth noting that you can't just redraw districts how you want. The issue is they have to hold up in court. This is why specifically Texas and Ohio are two of the current concerns, and the reason why they're doing redistricting, because they believe they have a strong case there that they can legally defend, for instance, right, getting rid of this congressional district. If the court sees it and reviews the congressional map and says, hey, forget your revision, your current congressional maps are actually unconstitutional, they're not fair, they're gerrymandered, then you could also see a backfire scenario where lawsuits result, for instance, Illinois, I think that's a prime example of the opposite happening, right? Of them actually losing seats in their own states because people realize, hey, you're already freaking gerrymandering. So I say the Democrats go ahead, right? Go ahead. See if your attempts to do this actually hold up in court, because I will tell you right now, I'm not a prophet or anything. I think this one will. It's ridiculous to begin with. They're getting rid of it. They're making it more fair. It's more democratic. Well, ding, ding, ding. Guess who is now saying the same exact thing? I was right. I tried to tell you. The New York Times themselves, as you can see, here's a new article out of today. Quote, Democrats have few tools to counter the GOP redistricting. They are essentially helpless in this matter. This is leaving, as it notes, Democrats fuming and without many pathways to fight it. Oh, isn't that interesting? Oh, look at Gavin Newsom's face. He's realizing, oh, shoot. I may be talking tough, but there's nothing I can do. Yeah, we told you so, because you guys are already playing dirty. Republicans are basically saying, we're going to play a little more fair. And that's really the truth of what's happening right now. Here's the story. With Republicans in Texas planning to redraw more favorable congressional maps this summer, as the party vies to maintain control of Congress next year, which I will once again note should not be the case. Okay, we are the incumbent party. Democrats are the opposition. The House GOP majority, I should say, is already incredibly slim. This should be a layup, easy election for Democrats. The reason it's not is because, again, they're that weak and that unpopular. Nonetheless, national Democratic leaders are vowing to use every tool at their disposal to counter what they see as a nakedly partisan power grab. Oh, we're just so scared of you, Democrats. But as they point out, as I try to tell you too, the toolbox for Democrats is relatively sparse aside from litigation or legislative protests. Why is that the case? Because though Democrat leaders have indicated a willingness to go tit for tat with Republicans, most of the largest blue states do not have a partisan redistricting process akin to the one in Texas, where the governor can call in the legislature to redraw maps. Okay, womp womp on that front. California has an independent commission, which was approved in 2010. New York also has a commission that is subject to legislative changes, so they can technically do it, but, I guess the political energy might not be there in time, and New Jersey's political commission is separate from the legislature. But here's what they even note themselves. Again, as I tried to tell you, Democrats already gerrymander. Quote, states where Democrats would have complete control over any redistricting, such as newsflash, Illinois and Maryland, the two states I keep on mentioning here, this is where they can do the same process as Texas. Even their own admission here from the New York Times is what? Illinois and Maryland are, quote, already heavily gerrymandered in their favor. Whoa, they're finally admitting this. They're finally admitting the Democrats have been playing dirty, right? They're crying out in pain as they strike you on the front of gerrymandering. Going on here to note, squeezing more Democratic seats out of those states would be a challenge. Yes, after all, okay, it's a miracle you guys got this seat to hold up in court. Even the last time we covered this, Democrats were noting this is a legally tricky, it's a risky thing to do, because what if you go to court and your original map gets struck down because it's unconstitutional if you want to go in that way, right? But going on here to say the Democrats' leverage is quite limited, and that's the problem, said Steve Israel, a former Democrat member of Congress from New York. Quote, Republicans are just more ruthless than Democrats. They play to break the rules, and Democrats play to enshrine the rules with fairer processes, like in California, despite the fact their so-called independent commission, who's appointing those people? Democrat governors time and time again. You know, again, the California seats are not exactly fair anyway. We broke down the numbers. But anyways, while Democrats have their share of aggressive gerrymanders, okay, case closed. Aggressive gerrymanders. There you go. Blue states have embraced reforms to insulate redistricting from politics, making all these coping excuses going on there. But as you can see, Texas is now going after the request of President Trump. So there you have it. But again, central theme of this entire story here, Democrats have vowed to counter with an opposing force, right? Never bring a knife to a gunfight, said New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. But there's nothing he can actually do to redraw the districts, right? Gavin Newsom said two can play this game. However, Mr. Newsom cannot simply order a new round of redistricting. So in every single case here, they are helpless. That is the truth. They're a yapping dog. There's nothing in reality they can do. So there you have it, as Democrats' 2026 odds continue to shrink. And on that note, we also have today Jasmine Crockett coming out and trying to announce a counter strategy. So she's basically saying if they're going to redistrict and we're screwed, then why don't we, in her own words, she literally says this, pour more dark money into the election? To which I say, first of all, Jasmine, how did that work out for you the last time? And what's currently going on with the Democrat dark money? But nonetheless, I kid you not, here's apparently the new Democrat solution to counter this problem. Take a listen.
We also know that there are donors that I'm sure are going to be willing to make sure that they are investing and making sure that they can take down some of these candidates. Since they don't want to rule out dark money, I'm sure some dark money gonna pour in on the behalf of the American people. So what I am saying is every tactic, as well as making sure we're touching people.
I mean, that whole statement is just bonkers. She's openly endorsing dark money, which, I mean, again, to be mature about this, exists in both parties, absolutely. And then the second 2026 Democrat strategy is to touch people. Okay, amazing. Thank you for that, Jasmine. But nonetheless, here's the issue that you're going to run into. So just as we covered with redistricting, you can say that. You can put out empty threats, but here's the reality. Act Blue, the very entity you were using to, push that dark money, get it into your elections, and always have a massive fundraising advantage over Republicans, and quite suspiciously so, has now collapsed in terms of leadership. They're under investigation from both Judiciary Committee in the House and the Department of Justice. They've received congressional subpoenas. And by the way, your campaign is one of those in the complaint for also taking allegedly some of the illegal fraudulent money there. So that's number one. Number two, when you look at the current state of Democrat fundraising without Act Blue, as we covered earlier this week, they are indeed going broke. Massive cash disadvantage to the Republicans. The DNC is currently floating the idea that they may have to take out an emergency loan because they're going that broke. So there I say, right? Good luck then with the dark money. You think that's going to save you this time around? I mean, it's kind of hard to do that when you're broke, because guess what? Your dark money sources are dried up, ladies and gentlemen. So another empty threat as usual. With that said, though, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. What do you think of the admission that, we're not going to really be able to redistrict to counter Republicans? What do you think of the so-called dark money solution? Oh, yeah, we haven't seen that one before. Let me know. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.